MKO Abiola, the legend of the man so wealthy that he could sign on a toilet paper and you could cash it out in a Swiss bank. Reportedly the richest man in Africa during his era, Abiola came from a home where he began selling firewood at a very tender age to support his father's failing business and performed at ceremonies for free meals. But how did he outsmart everybody to rise in the high-stake game of fortune and power? And what became of his billion-dollar empire after his shocking death in 1998? Stay with us as we explore the story of Nigeria's most disruptive billionaire. Born to Salawu and Suliat Abiola in Ogun State on August 24, 1937, Kashimawo Olawale Abiola was the first child of his parents to survive infancy after the death of 22 others. Hence, he was named Kashimawo, a Yoruba name interpreted as "let us wait and see," since he was not expected to grow past infancy like the others. They waited and watched Kashimawo supersede all expectations to grow into a healthy young boy, prompting his Islamic parents to properly give him the Islamic name Moshood, meaning prosperous. As a child old enough to go to school, MKO was enrolled in African Central School, Abeokuta, for his primary education. Unlike other children, Moshood Abiola was put in a precarious situation by the inspectors who had come to inspect his father's cocoa produce in 1949 and ended up destroying them for being of low quality. The unfortunate incident quickly nosedived the family into an untold hardship, forcing young Abiola to combine his education with the firewood sales business he began at the age of 9 to assist his struggling parents. When things had gotten even harder for the family, Moshood Abiola started a band group at the age of 15 and would perform at various ceremonies in exchange for food. However, he eventually became famous enough to start demanding payments for his performances. Using the money to support his secondary school education at Baptist Boys High School, Abeokuta. Being the bright student that he was, MKO was made the editor of his school's magazine and was assisted by none other than Olusegun Obasanjo, his fellow student who would eventually become a Nigerian head of state. Following the completion of his secondary education, Moshood Abiola developed an interest in the popular Pan-Africanism movement rocking the entire continent of Africa during the struggles of independence, motivating the 19-year-old boy to join the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroon's political party in 1956. In that same year, he kicked off his professional career in the banking industry, where he worked as a bank clerk at Barclays Bank DCO Ibadan for 2 years. In 1958, he pivoted to the Western Region Finance Corporation as an executive officer, serving in the position for another 2 years before flying out of the country on a state-sponsored scholarship in 1960. Armed with a growing reputation for excellence, Moshood was admitted to the prestigious University of Glasgow, Scotland, where he reportedly obtained a first-class degree in political economy, commercial law, and management accountancy. Not one to rest on his laurels, he moved to the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Scotland, completing his qualification in 1965 and emerging as a distinguished chartered accountant with a world-class pedigree. Upon his return to Nigeria, Moshood Abiola began his practice by working as a senior accountant at the University of Lagos Teaching Hospital before moving to the famous pharmaceutical company Pfizer. While working at the Nigerian subsidiary of the American-based company, MKO suddenly developed an eagerness to own some shares in the company. However, when he was presented with the available options, the young accountant didn't find it appealing and from that moment began looking outwards for better options. Seizing a new opportunity, Moshood Abiola applied for a position seeking a trained accountant. An arrangement he only discovered during the interview was for ITT Corporation, a notable manufacturing firm in Nigeria. However, this corporation was facing a serious challenge trying to receive a significant debt owed to them by the Nigerian military, and by hiring MKO as a senior accountant, he was immediately assigned this task as his first assignment on the job. Determined to prove himself, Moshood Abiola arranged a meeting with Lieutenant Colonel Murtala Muhammad, the Army's Inspector of Signals, leading to a heated argument that drew the attention of the then Chief of Staff, Brigadier Usman Kastina. Impressed by Abiola's tenacity, the brigadier authorized an immediate check to clear the debt, unintentionally giving Abiola the star symbol he needed to excel at his workplace. If you're enjoying this documentary, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support enables us to continue sharing compelling stories like this one. Now, let's get back to the story. Abiola, leveraging his success with the debt clearance, the ambitious accountant requested that the company sell him a 50% equity share as a stakeholder, an offer which was quickly declined. He was rewarded with a position once occupied by the rescinded expatriate manager. Undeterred, Abiola decided to start up a side venture named Radio Communications Nigeria. It was a telecommunication company where he trained new employees in marketing telecom equipment, focusing on the military, which was updating its outdated gear. He would offer to train military personnel in the usage and maintenance of this equipment, giving them an opportunity to reduce their dependence on external vendors. These offers were very pleasing to the military, leading them to sign a significant contract with RCN for the supply of the telecom equipment needed for the overhaul of their arsenal. When the ITT had caught a wind of this deal, the telecom equipment manufacturer desperately desired to become a co-beneficiary of this deal through a partnership with Abiola's company. This resulted in an offer of a 49% equity stake of their Nigerian arm to Abiola, a deal that the RCN boss quickly accepted and effectively took over as the vice president. Under Abiola's leadership, RCN developed a static communications network for the Armed Forces Signal Unit and also advanced Nigeria's domestic satellite communications. In 1975, ITT and its partners secured a major contract to supply automatic telephone exchange across multiple locations in the country, making MKO Abiola a significant stakeholder in Nigeria's telecommunications industry. Alongside his commitment to RCN and ITT, Moshood Abiola began investing across various sectors, satisfying an entrepreneurial spirit that had driven him for long. In 1980, Abiola launched the National Concord, a daily newspaper that quickly became one of Nigeria's most widely read publications. Recognizing the need for diverse content, he expanded the media group to include the Sunday Concord, Business Concord, and African Concord, catering to various readerships and curating a solidifying in the media sector. This was very important given his apparent venture into politics by being the chairman of the then ruling party, leading him to often dive into media wars with the opposition party, most prominently Obafemi Awolowo of the UPN and his Tribune Times newspaper. Citing the potential of a private investment in the aviation sector, MKO Abiola founded the Concorde Airlines in 1986. The airline operated a fleet that included a BAE 125 and several Fairchild aircraft, offering both scheduled and charter services. This substantially grew the value of his investment portfolio, making the rising billionaire thirsty for more. Partnering with his friend, including the late Shehu Musa Yaradua, Abiola co-founded African Ocean Lines. The shipping company commenced operations in 1984 with chartered vessels and by 1986 had acquired 2 cargo ships, each capable of carrying 958 20-feet containers. The firm, which became Nigeria's first indigenous shipping line on the West African coast, established trade routes linking major West African ports with the United Kingdom and Northern Europe. 1 year after the creation of his shipping line, Abiola quickly keyed into the agricultural sector, with farm produce being one of Nigeria's largest exports in the 1980s. The lucrative sector was almost impossible to ignore for anyone with the means to invest, and Abiola was no exception. He established Abiola Farms in 1985, appointing his son to largely manage the enterprise. The venture focused on large-scale farming, including fish ponds and extensive cultivation of crops like rice, maize, and soybeans across various regions in Nigeria. Not to be left out on the booming oil sector, Abiola founded one of the first indigenous oil exploration companies known as Summit Oil International Limited. The company was granted a license in 1990 and drilled its first oil well in 1992. Such speed and favorability with the government could be blamed on the service to the country, both in financial contributions and administrative efforts, such as being the president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and chairing the G15 Business Council. Other of his successful ventures include Abiola Bookshops, Concord Summit Capital, Wonder Bakeries, and many others, most of which were covered under the umbrella company Concord Group. With such an impressive portfolio, Moshood Abiola rose to become the richest man in Nigeria during the 1980s and for close to 2 decades. The man was said to be a jolly good fellow and lived life to the fullest. He reportedly spent most of his time in the United States, where he made a bulk of his money by contributing to the management of ITT Africa and Middle East. His significant international clout saw him lead several international organizations and received numerous awards. In 1987, he was given the Golden Key to the city of Washington, D.C., and it was bestowed with recognitions from the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and the King Center in the USA, and also the International Committee on Education for Teaching in Paris. His nationwide fame back at home earned him a total of 197 traditional titles across 67 communities, including the highest title in Yoruba culture, the Are Ona Kakanfo. With such a renowned public image and seamless validation by the Nigerian people and foreigners, Abiola was in possession of the most valuable currency in democracy-fueled politics. Hence, he began nurturing a political ambition for State House Marina, the then presidential seat of power based in Lagos. With the re-election of a civilian government from his party in 1983, everything seemed promising for the billionaire as Nigeria was back on track to making democratic government the mainstream system of governance. However, all hopes were dashed the same year when a military coup swept the re-elected president and ended civilian rule. After about a decade, the military government led by General Ibrahim Babangida came under pressure to return Nigeria to democracy, prompting a promise of a transition and reigniting the ambitions of former political actors, most prominently Moshood Abiola. After an allowance to begin the primary elections by the military government, Abiola emerged as the presidential candidate for the SDP political party. Riding on his fame and wealth, Moshood Abiola went on to win the 1993 presidential election conducted by the dictatorial government.
Nigerians are ready for democracy. Nigeria have elected their president.
But the victory of the popular merchant was short-lived, as the military regime led by General Babangida quickly annulled the elections, plunging the nation into a state of chaos. Moshood Abiola, livid but unyielding, went on to declare himself the rightful president, creating a parallel government that ultimately led to his arrest in 1994. It was like nothing ever seen before, the richest man in Nigeria and probably Africa being thrown into a rusty jail by gun-wielding dictators. His wealth couldn't save him, nor could the pleas of prominent international figures sway the military government succeeded by General Sani Abacha. Tragically, on July 7, 1998, the day he was slated for release, Abiola died suddenly during a meeting with a U.S. delegation.
The federal government regrets to announce the sudden death of Chief MKO Abiola at about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Official reports cited a heart attack as the cause, but the circumstances of his death instigated rumors of a tea poisoning during the meeting with his visitors. Nevertheless, the business tycoon was gone, and his large empire worth $1 billion at the time fell into turmoil. The political instability that ensued after his passing led to the seizure of some of his assets by the government. Internally, Abiola's large family faced challenges in managing the remaining assets. Disputes arose among his numerous heirs, leading to legal battles over the control and distribution of his wealth. The combination of the actions of a vengeful government, followed by the discord within his family of 4 official wives and over 50 children, led to a slow decline of the Abiola empire. The late billionaire was once the owner of opulent real estate properties in Nigeria, UK, and the United States. He was reported to have flown frequently in private jets, even acquiring over 25 hectares of land in Lagos with the intention of constructing a personal airstrip for his jets. And while he had no limits to enjoying his wealth, the billionaire also maintained the same generosity when it came to giving to the poor. He was instrumental in the construction of 63 secondary schools, 121 mosques, 41 libraries, and 21 water projects in 24 states of Nigeria, not excluding the grand patronage of 149 societies in Nigeria. The generous tycoon also donated the sum of 1 million naira to every state university in Nigeria, 500,000 to federal universities, and 250,000 to each polytechnic. Said to have contested because he was tired of seeing poverty in the country. The person of MKO Abiola portrays a rare gem who made a daring decision of foregoing his luxurious comfort in pursuit of a vision for the nation. The popular billionaire changed the face of everything in his path, from the business landscape of Nigeria to the dynamics of modern politics in Nigeria. Despite encountering numerous obstacles in the way, his life poses a reminder to the world that having a clear vision and sticking to it no matter the odds is all it takes to make a lasting difference.